I hope everyone had breakfast. Good morning, everyone. I am Karan Jamal and I am from India. I am 15 years old and I welcome you all to today's session of the Decolonize project. So now I want to mention about our journey today. We are the world's largest synthesis of youth research, recommended policies and actions on climate change. As the world prepares for COP24, hundreds of thousands of youth from across the planet will mobilize around the continuing impact of colonization and repercussions of climate change.
In Poland, here we have Australia, Brazil, Canada, Cuba, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Latvia, Nigeria, Palestine, Peru, the Philippines, Poland, and the United States. Although they couldn't be here in spirit, we have China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ghana, Morocco, Nepal, Slovenia, Taichung, Thailand, Turkey, and Trinidad and Tobago.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn from Canada, and decarbonize is literal definition is to reduce the amount of gaseous carbon compounds that are released into the atmosphere. During our collaboration, we focused on how to reduce our carbon footprints and mitigate the greenhouse gases that we emit into our atmosphere. We co-created these on multiple simulators which showed our impacts and how to mitigate the emissions. And so just below all of the text is a quote from our US students.
Decolonize is to allow a colony or territory to become self-governing and independent. Throughout the project, we've been trying to expose the relationship between colonization and carbon emissions. We've been researching the effects that colonization has on indigenous people around the world, and how to include marginalized voices in climate change discussions and mitigation strategies. Richard from the Philippines said, "Respecting and acknowledging the importance of indigenous knowledge will benefit us all. It is critical that our first step of this is proper education for all."
Our project, when it comes down to climate change, we often neglect the opinions and the view of indigenous people and youth. So throughout the project, we've made it our goal to represent these underheard voices by gathering information from research and speaking with indigenous communities and schools. We also show the connection between colonization and climate change and how they are directly affected by each other.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and we are from Townsville, which is located on the northeastern coast of Australia, as allocated by the red star on the map. If we move on to the next slide, there's a picture of Townsville there. As you can tell, our city is usually sunny and has a warm tropical climate. As for us, we are Year 10 students of Pimlico State High School, which lies on the traditional land of the Walpurgis and Bidil people. Once again, you can see the picture of our PowerPoint. At school, we participate in a Year 10 Global Studies class, which focuses on participation in the Decolonize project.
Hello, I'm Max, and in Townsville we're affected by climate change through low and inconsistent levels of rainfall, so we're currently in a statewide 10-year drought and have level 2 water restrictions. So that limits how we use water both on an industrial and household level, but also impacted through tropical cyclones like hurricanes and coastal rain. And in frequent years, there's become both frequent and more severe. And also, Townsville is right next to the Great Barrier Reef, which is under constant threat of tropical cyclones and coral bleaching, which is due to excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Hi, I'm Tia Beavis and I'm an Indigenous Australian. Indigenous Australia is made up of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. I'm a direct descendant of the Pita people located in northwest Queensland, and I'm Aboriginal. As an Australian and as an Indigenous individual, I strongly feel that our knowledge of the land in Australia isn't being used to the best of its ability. And we have not been included in Australia's current climate change issues, and as a voice in Parliament, we don't have one. And when it comes to climate change action.
So in terms of action plans, we have analysed several case studies, including welfare and seed. Welfare is the Western Arnhem Land Fire Abatement Project, which employs Indigenous Australians to run controlled burners, which is burning of the land. Not only does this reduce carbon emissions, but it also reduces the risk of dangerous bushfires in Australia. On the other hand, SEED is an Indigenous Youth Climate Network, which campaigns for climate action, which gives these youth as much of a voice as possible.
So in terms of action in Townsville, our class is trying to make our school carbon neutral. That's mitigating and offsetting our CO2 emissions through carbon sequestration, planting trees, introducing compost and soft plastic recycling, and searching for sustainable energy alternatives rather than unregulated coal power. So this year our schools paid solar panels and they'll be implemented next year, and hopefully soon we'll make our schools carbon neutral. Thank you.
Woo! Guys. So my name is Bruna and I'm 15 years old. And we live in São Paulo, Brazil. And we study at Colégio Magno. And our school director, Dona Miriam, is the representative of Brazil in UNESCO. Okay, this is our climate change reality in São Paulo. This is a graphic of our temperature since 1933 until 2013. And there you can see the meanings of the lines. And as you can see, all the lines are getting higher along these years, and which is a consequence of the global warming. This is a picture of our city, and you might think, oh my god, I really want to live there. But we also have a lot of problems for important problems. So this is our daily reality in São Paulo when it comes to traffic. This huge amount of cars on the streets is the consequence of the overpopulation in our city. This overpopulation is totally connected to urbanization, which is a really shocking result of the colonization. Okay, remember that sky? It's not the same one as this. That sky was clean, this is polluted. But this situation just happens in months with like rain, maybe August, and then we can see with our own eyes the pollution. This kind of a draw is also connected to the deforestation in Amazon, because Amazon rainforest is responsible for 44% of Brazil's rain, and we're just cutting it down. This year was one of the worst years because there was an increase of 14% in deforestation, the biggest one in the last 10 years. So this is a picture of Tietê River. Tietê River is one of the most important rivers in São Paulo. Back in the day, Tietê was used by São Paulo citizens for entertainment. Due to the city growth and urbanization, Tietê became no more than a landfill for industrial pollution and domestic sewage. That was the same river as the first picture. This is a project that our school participated in. It's called Observing the Rivers. It emerged in São Paulo, obviously because of the river pollution. Every month, a group of students goes to Congonhas Stream, which is very close to our school. And as you can see, it's very dirty. When we arrive there, we first of all clean all the area, and then we collect a sample of the water to make physical and chemical analysis. Like, oh, is it smelling, or are there any living beings in the water? And then we put all this information together in a paper and post it in a website where everyone can have access and be aware of our river quality.
So as a positive change movement, our school started a campaign called Copo Zero, Zero Cup, what is based on the removal of the use of straws and plastic cups in our school. It all started with little children from kindergarten distributing water bottles to all the students to promote greater community awareness.
Brazil has a really big connection with indigenous people, so much is that before the Portuguese arrival, there were 3 to 4 million indigenous people living here. But as we don't have much time, I'm just talking a little bit about. We think that the most powerful voice they have in Brazil, and it's not that much, is through FUNAI. FUNAI is the official indigenous organ of the Brazilian state. Their main objective is to protect and promote their rights, and they fight for the limitation and demarcation besides monitoring and controlling their lands. They also fight for restoration and preservation.
Bringing in indigenous knowledge into our education is something very close to our everyday life at school. There's a law in Brazil which obligates every school in the whole country to include indigenous culture in academic books. Also, there's a lot of schools that visit indigenous communities with the purpose of putting into practice what was learned in class. This makes us feel closer to our native people who were and are very important to our nation. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm Rain.
I go to Queen Elizabeth High School.
And I go to Argyle Center.
At Queen Elizabeth, we offer classes such as Aboriginal Studies, Global Citizenship, and Innovate, which is focuses on sustainable agriculture. And we're also one of the greenest schools in Canada.
At Argyle, I and my team are working towards making climate change accessible for all. We are making an abstract project that involves art submitted by Indigenous youth and non-Indigenous youth alike, and making a zine, a coloring book, and eventually a website with all the information compiled into one so that everybody, no matter who you are, can access it.
So both of our schools are located in Edmonton. This is the big red dot up there.
And Edmonton is located on Treaty 6 territory.
Treaty 6 territory is home to the Dene, Nakota Sioux, Saulteaux, Cree, Blackfoot, and Métis. So the climate change adaptation and resilience strategy is a 3-phase action plan, and step 1 is to recognize and research.
Step 2 is to make a plan toward action.
And phase 3 is to put that plan into action.
So here, you can see the first step that Edmonton is trying to take towards mitigating our carbon emissions. This is an electric bus, and it is just a prototype, so we don't really know much, but what we do know, it will eventually replace our gasoline buses.
On the other hand, in August of 2018, the City of Edmonton was charged with multiple offenses under the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act.
And of course, our government is very capitalist, and so it relies heavily on oil. And so, because our economy is so relying on oil, they don't really pay attention much to the environmental impacts.
So the Lubicon Cree, which is a Northern Alberta Indigenous group, had their traditional ways of life and land disrupted by water pollution, which was caused by oil sands unconsensually being built on their lands.
The Papas Chase burial grounds were stolen by EPCOR, a powerhouse electrical and water company. When they were building the plant, we were informed that the workers were told to simply throw the bodies right into the river. And so, next slide, despite our negative environmental impacts, Indigenous voices are slowly starting to be integrated into conversations.
So although it's not just mountains and ice hockey anymore, the future is changing in Canada. Thank you.
Good morning, students. Good morning, teachers. Good morning, dignitaries. Good morning for the world. From my point of view, we are the world because we are working to save our planet. This is Cuba, the Cuban flag. Cuba is present. Cuba is here. Buenos días para todos in Spanish. With this event, young people can raise their voices and advocate for environmental well-being. An important biological species is in danger of disappear for the fast and progressive liquidation of their natural conditions of life. The human man, Fidel Castro Cruz. The climate change is a problem that affects all. At present, it has been highlighted by the excessive actuation of the men. This is Cuba. Our Cuba. Cuba, there are 15 provinces and a special municipality. Havana City, the capital of Cuba, wonderful and real city. It will celebrate your 500 years next year, 2019. This is Trinity City. This is an important place of Cuba, the Bay of Piñales, in Pinar del Rio, a province of Cuba. Cienfuegos City, there is in Howard's Hotel, there are important cafeterias, restaurants, a beautiful city. Santa Clara City, my city. Ernesto Guevara Monument. Santa Clara is the city of Ernesto Guevara and Marta Abreu. This is my school. Beautiful, big. Cuba is small, but strong in its ideas. Yeah. This is the objective of sustainable development and the Cuban answer. The Cuban state established a plan named Task Life, whose expression, and it is the Cuban answer for the objective of sustainable development. In this plan, reaffirm the climate change reduction and the environmental preservations. Impact assessment and environmental damage to the disaster caused by hurricane. Last year in Cuba, we put an hurricane that causes more affectations. Havana, Cuba. Yeah, the effects of these hurricanes. These are the effects of one of the most intense meteorological phenomena that has happened in Cuba, the Irma hurricane, and that excess intention of wind is a consequence of climate change, using later in the subtropical storm that brought lots of rain and that access with Cuban agriculture. We are installing wind and photovoltaic parks. Look the pictures. I reaffirm the Albert Einstein's word. There is a strength most important than the steamboat, the atomic energy, and the electrician, the willingness. And with this willingness, we will work. Remember that the realities of today are the truth of tomorrow. For this reason, I suggest you decarbonize, decolonize. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Wait, what's the time? Oh, it's 12. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tarun from India again. So, as you can see, that over there is the central part of my city. My city is more than 500 years old because it was established by the Nizams. The Nizams were a ruling class, and that there is one of the heritage monuments which is also 400 years old. It's called the Charminar because it has 4 pillars and Char means 4. So, as you can see, life at Charminar is very busy and congested, I would say. If you were to visit here Charminar, you would see patches and patches to other monuments because of reactions from the nearby carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide emissions as a result of the traffic. So since it is one of our heritage monuments, the government has taken a plan to ban all the entry of vehicles up to a radius of 2 kilometers around Charminar. Now that there is the main building of my school, the Hyderabad Public School. That it was also built by the Nizams, and it's 95 years old. These are taking inspiration from last year's COI 13 and the COP 23 presentations. We have taken some certain measures to do our bit to combat climate change. That there is one of the 12 rainwater harvesting pits throughout our school. We also have a compost pit which we have revived recently and can produce up to 286 kilos of compost. The compost is also used in the kitchen garden and the herbal garden. The herbal garden adds to the medicinal value and the greenery of our school. The kitchen garden, however, acts as a source of vegetables. It was established to act as a source of vegetables to feed all the 4,000 students in our school. And we have an aim of not buying vegetables from outside in the next 5 years. Sorry. Now, that there is my whole school, around 300 acres of land, half of which is green. The greenery acts as a carbon sink for the area and the surrounding areas. So if you were to visit some place near the school, you would feel cold because of the greenery. And if you could see this road over here, it's very busy. Like traffic over here is very large, and we have many commuters. So the emissions over here are also absorbed by the greenery in our school. So again, carbon neutral. Now, if you can see this black line, which was blue before, it's a distributary of a river called Musi. So this stream was first very clear, crystal clear. You could have used it for agriculture and other purposes, but now it is pitch black and polluted with industrial effluents. So to reduce the pollution and the contamination by the effluents, we have started an online campaign. And we want to tie up with the government and the NGOs, because this work can't be done alone. And we are also in the process of sending a letter to all the industries which are releasing the effluents into this stream. This here is one of the tribes of India which is now slowly disappearing. It's called the Gondi tribe. So the members of the Gondi are, some members of the Gondi tribe are now also a part of the urban community, because India has plans for these specific tribes to get educated and have jobs throughout the country. But not all of them have been reached, and even though the government is providing funds, since some of them are in very remote areas, we haven't been able to connect with them yet. But the government is taking measures to come in contact with them. That there is one of the largest solar farms in India. It is aimed to produce more than 150 gigawatt of energy by 2020. India has many inland windmills, and we are also building offshore windmills. Because we get a lot of air from the southwestern currents and the northeastern currents. That there is an oscillating surge wave converter. It's a prototype. It is being used throughout the world, but then it's still in its initial stages. So it is also aimed at producing electricity from the oscillating surges from the waves. And those are some of the major dams in India. We produce as much as 150,000 kilowatts of energy from these dams. Now, recently, first, how many people know about the Kerala floods that happened earlier this year? Nobody, I guess. So, Kerala is at the base of the foothills of the Western Ghats and is also near the coastline. It is the first to receive rainfall in India and also the last to say goodbye.
As you can see, this flood happened recently because due to climate change and global warming, a lot of water was taken from the moisture, and instead of having 6 months of rainfall, we completed all that in 12 days, and the water was accumulated throughout the land. Over 3,000 people are dead and millions are displaced. This is due to the environmental degradation back in India. And we also thank all the people who have helped us from abroad, and we are still taking steps to bring these people back because it's still in a very bad condition. If I had a video, I would have showed how the buildings were falling off. And that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Lisa. I come from Kenya. Most people often mistake Africa as a country. We have very many countries, including Kenya. So I am a student in St. Austin's Academy, as you can see in the top right picture. I am 16 years old and I am in year 11. Kenya is located in the eastern part. Kenya is located in the eastern part of Africa. It has a diversity of different climates, including the savanna, coastal, plateaus, and mountain ridges. St. Austin's is located in the heart of Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, which is where I live. This is the Mao Forest. It's one of Kenya's main water catchment areas, so it contributes to a network and systems of rivers, which contributes to lakes and eventually into the ocean. So as you can see in the top pictures, this is how it used to look. It was very beautiful. It had very many trees. Yeah, and initially the Ogek community lived in this forest. Now, due to political influences, many people came into this forest illegally, and they took up the land. So they cut down trees, and then they used the land for agricultural uses and to build up homes. Now, as years went by, more people lived inside the forest and took up the land. So eventually, this contributed to a large burst of deforestation, which affected the climate patterns. So many rivers dried up, as you can see in the bottom of the picture. And that really affected our country. Our country really depends on agriculture. So it is like the main source of economy. So because of the different rain patterns, we weren't able to receive as much food as we wanted, which really affected many people, and many people died. Unfortunately, this is a major issue because many people live in this forest, and we aren't able to move them somewhere else. We can't really displace them. So it's kind of hard to figure out what to weigh because there's human rights and there's environmental rights. So that's been a major issue. This is Mount Kenya, which is the largest mountain in Kenya and the second largest mountain in Africa. We had a lot of ice at the top, but due to the rise in temperature, most of the glaciers have melted, and around 90% of it has melted in the last 20 years. So because of the melted ice, it contributed to lots and lots of floods, as you can see in these pictures. Many women had to go and collect water, and therefore they left their families and had to leave their children alone. Eventually, it led to drought because all the water evaporated and never came back. So that led to a lot of drought, and many people were affected. This is a part of the indigenous communities in Kenya. On top is the Maasai, and at the bottom is the Ogek community. Our school luckily was able to interview them, and we got to learn a lot about indigenous communities and how they have knowledge about the land and how to protect it and preserve it. Unfortunately, not many people take into consideration of the ideas because in Kenya especially, they don't consider them as a main part of the economy because they have a different culture. So when we interviewed them, we got different ideas and perspectives of how to solve climate issues. So our school participates in many climate action activities. As you can see, we have very many students participating in planting trees. We are part of this, this club called SUSO, which stands for Stand Up and Shout Out. So it is a youth platform for people, young people all over Kenya, for them to voice out their opinions because the youth do matter and we have a voice. So our school also takes initiative. We have a solar panel on top of our roof that helps us get solar radiation to heat our pools. We also encourage people to switch off the lights when not in use, and we have an anti-litter policy. Yes. So our country has also taken initiative. We ban plastic. So yay, Kenya! We also banned charcoal. So that's a really big step. Our current president is hoping by 2020 that we will use renewable resources, so we'll remove all this unrenewable resources such as oil. Yeah. So I am part of a community whereby we would like to tell the youth and Kenyans and everyone that we are able to make change. So we're trying to focus on building a positive outlook instead of a negative outlook. So as you can see, the two top pictures, the picture at the top and the picture at the bottom, this is what most people see. This is what most people show as climate change. But we would like to create a positive image of what our country or what our world can look like by showing pictures like this and telling the world that if we take action, this is what we can get. Thank you.
So this is our city. As you can see, the architecture has a lot of Spanish influence. This, the bamboo organ, is a unique site in our city, is actually considered a heritage site. This is the only bamboo organ in the country, and it's always presenting something special, especially during the Bamboo Organ Festival. The Philippines has a tough climate. It is experiencing lots of typhoons every year, 20 typhoons per year, especially during the months of June until November. As you can see, the huge problem we have related to climate change are floods. Floods reach around knee-deep and sometimes over our waist. It is a huge problem because climate change has changed the landscape of our daily lives. Back in 2013, Typhoon Yolanda, the strongest typhoon in the history of the planet Earth, has hit our country and has claimed 6,000 lives. As you can see, people are really suffering under the hands of strong typhoons. But during the months of June and during the summer season, we experience the opposite, extreme heat. As you can see, there are droughts, and this is a huge problem because the agricultural sector of our country is highly damaged. So, the highly urbanized metropolis of Metro Manila, as you can see, has a lot of buildings and infrastructure. But on the west side of the picture, you can see the species Paranaque critical habitat consists of 2 islands which have a lot of migratory birds and actually serves as the protection of us against floods and storm surges. But due to climate change, it is harder to combat these floods because even the Freedom Island is being affected. Why? Because of the garbage that the Metro Manila is producing. All the garbage of the city slowly washes up on the shore, as you can see here, and affecting the migratory birds. 2 months ago, me and my classmates visited these islands and we actually saw the devastating effect that climate change has done and also the humans have contributed. So what our school is doing is that we are actually aiming to be a green school. We have a rooftop garden and our cafeteria is slowly banning the usage of plastic spoon and forks. Every student is encouraged to bring their own utensils for the sake of recycling. Also, a senator in the Philippines is encouraging the lawmakers to pass this bill
that will officially ban plastic straws everywhere. Nowadays, when you go to fast food restaurants like McDonald's, you're encouraged not to use plastic straws because straws are actually one of the most devastating objects to harm the seas. So what the government is doing is that we have these agencies, the Climate Change Commission and the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. The first one focuses on creating new policies, researches that will make the Philippines more climate resilient. Because it is a fact that we, located in the Pacific region, are one of the most vulnerable to climate change and natural disasters. Well, this agency focuses on reminding the citizens of what to do when natural disasters strike. For example, when a strong typhoon is approaching us, this agency will text every Filipino that reminders like an orange rainfall warning system so that we will be reminded to stay at home and not do outside activities for the sake of our lives. While from the indigenous lens, the government is actually not focusing on them. This is the New Centennial Water Source Project, one of our case studies. As you can see in this map, the government is actually pushing for a big dam project to be built on the mountain range of Sierra Madre. The indigenous people, the Dumagat Remontodo tribe, are actually protesting against this dam because it will harm the biodiversity and will displace them from their ancestral lands. Also, in the southern part of the Philippines, we have these Lumad Muslim people, and a lot of them are being killed and targeted because the government is putting this terrorist image on them and actually making them more vulnerable. These people are protesting because large companies are exploiting them and removing them from their lands for the sake of exploring the natural resources around it. So as a country with a huge social media usage, we, the students, use this platform as our voice. We share our ideas, our thoughts, and our feelings about the government. We have little voice because the government is not hearing our side of the story. But we, as a youth, are pushing for our voices to be heard through social media. This is an example of a protest in climate.org, and the youth is pushing it for like 10,000 submissions or signatures so that the government will notice us. As of the moment, the protest is not yet successful because the government is still pushing for this New Centennial Water Source project to happen. I will leave you this quote from our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal, that the youth is the hope of the motherland. So what we're doing is we're talking, but we should less talk and we should act more. This is the climate change revolution, and we, the youth, is the face of this revolution. And we should use this because this is our right, our voice, our duty to be aware, step up, and take action. Thank you.
Hi everybody, we are Annika and Alyssa from Los Altos, California, and we are 13 years old and representing the United States. We are very honored to have the opportunity to be here with all of you for such an inspiring cause.
Climate change has impacted us on a personal level as there have been extremely destructive fires which have ravaged most of California. Here are a few pictures we took very recently, about a week or so ago, of our hometown, Los Altos, California, which is in the United States. These fires were started in Chico, which is another city that is about 200 miles away from our hometown, Los Altos. However, the smoke from the fires drove many people inside, and many schools were canceled due to the hazardous air quality. It may be hard to see here, but there is a thick layer of smoke in the sky, as the air quality was deemed hazardous, and this was equivalent to smoking a half a pack of cigarettes that day. The origin of all the smoke and the cause of the poor air quality can be seen here in these images.
Pictures are taken in Chico, California, and the massive destruction can be seen from this terrible catastrophe, which impacted the lives of many communities around California. More than 230,000 people fled their homes, and the blazes caused significant damage across the region. An image of the rating of the air quality in the top right corner can be seen, demonstrating the areas with hazardous conditions.
Just weeks after the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California history, the most comprehensive assessment of the effects of climate change on the United States was released by the Trump administration. According to the National Climate Assessment, these latest catastrophes were caused by particularly drying forests and making them more susceptible to burning. Extreme wildfires are not only a consequence of climate change, but they can also contribute to the rise in carbon emissions. In fact, 2/3 of the carbon emitted by California ecosystems from 2001 to 2010 came from 6% of our land area that burned from fires. Despite all these tragedies, our air quality is much better now due to a rainstorm we just had. Here are some pictures of our town after the smoke dissipated. The sky is blue and the air smells fresh and sweet again.
In terms of local climate change projects, our town has many in which both the youth and adults participate in. One campaign our school participated in was the Glass Straw Initiative. We reached out to local businesses to use alternatives or skip distributing glass straws entirely. Our Decarbonize Decolonize Club received a grant to purchase glass straws for adults and youth at our school in order to use. Besides that, there are various other community projects that our town participates in order to make our community more clean and green. One of the projects that stands out to us the most is the Gray Mobile project. This project was developed by 5th graders at our school, and it uses gray water to water plants and lawns. The Gray Mobile is a fun, fast, and easy way to water your and your neighbors' lawns. It is important for climate change projects to be advocated for in local communities, but equally important for the indigenous people to be represented in these conversations.
In the United States, Native Americans control their own water on their own land. Because of this, the Native Americans have been keeping their water clean and sustainable using traditions that have worked for them in the past. Using these methods of attaining fresh and clean water, case studies have shown that converting to more traditional methods of the indigenous would be more appropriate and useful rather than our current methods. However, the indigenous people are hardly heard as the government has ostracized and separated them onto remote reservations. However, many people in the United States are taking steps to get the indigenous voices heard. There are many groups that are encouraging the indigenous people to open up and share their stories about what they have gone through using social media as a platform. Even more exciting is that during our midterm elections in the United States, Sharon Davids from Kansas and Deb Haaland from New Mexico made history by becoming the first Native American female Congress members. This is a huge step for the Native American population to have representation in the government. These representatives will allow the indigenous people and their unique ideas on climate change and other global issues to be heard in our governmental system and actually make a difference. We look forward to see the changes in perspective that the Native Americans bring to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Camila and I'm from Jombang, East Java, Indonesia. So now I'm going to talk about garbage in the oceans, more precisely, marine debris. So, my country, Indonesia, is the second largest contributor of plastic waste in the world, and the problem is because of our carelessness, like some people or even one of us. Of course, me too, is still littering. For example, like throwing garbage into the river, to the sea, to the road, and even to the streets. our big cities are located near or by the oceans, so most of our people's lives are dependent into sorry, yeah. So most of our people's life are are dependent to on the oceans, but we have such problems like our beaches, coastal areas, and seas are highly polluted to very alarming level. And also we have a lot of traditional tribes and indigenous people whose live are also dependent in the oceans. Okay. So my school, Warai Vida Islamic Boarding School, held discussion with people and stakeholders who live in nearby coastal town in Lamongan to identify problem and solution to the ocean pollution. So as you can see the top of the image of the top, there in Lamongan, and there is full of garbage in the coastal sea, and our school also organized 7-minute pick trash up in the morning before attending our classes, and also we make and also we make eco bricks. Do you know eco bricks? Okay. So here we want to recycle plastic that is no longer used, which consists of plastic waste, which consists of dry and clean plastics. And the goal is to reduce garbage into the oceans or on Earth, and eco bricks can be used to can be made for chairs, tables, and etc. So, and also eco bricks is environmentally friendly. So, Indonesia Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries Susi Pujiastuti conduct cleanup activities on the coast of the sea, and as part of a commitment to reduce 70% of plastic waste in the oceans by 2025. Okay, so last is the oceans doesn't need us, we need the oceans more than it need us. That's all. Thank you.
Alright, hi. I am Mara Beznya. I'm from Latvia. I'm 14 and I am a 9th grade student in Adja Free Waldorf School. So Latvia is still a very green country. 45% of our land is actually forest. We have two main problems, I would say. First off, this is ocean pollution, and second, trash. Our country has been trying to implement a deposit system for bottles for about 14 years now. And for each bottle you would get 10 cents back. There are two main problems to this. So the first problem is the prices will rise for some of the products. And overall the money will amount to very large amounts, which means some of the citizens are hesitant to do this as well. Secondly, many of the politically influential people in Latvia own trash-oriented companies. Therefore, there has been a lot of resistance with this project. Overall, Latvia would benefit a lot from this. 75% of all of the trash by seasides, in forests, on the streets would be reduced. In our school, we have implemented recycling bins in every classroom and in every hallway. And every year, our younger students will go to forests and plant trees. I personally see this as a really good stepping stone to being a more eco-friendly country. I personally think that the next step for Latvia is recycling more. And there have been many recycling projects in the last couple of years, but we still have a very long way to go. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Deborah. I'm 16 years old. I'm from Government Model Secondary School, Jukwe, Abuja. I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that is rich and blessed with material, human and natural resources. Nigeria has 6 area councils, 36 states, and 774 local government areas. It's a great place. It has great people. But just like every other country, Nigeria is bedeviled and challenged by climate change. Some of the climate change conditions that occur in Nigeria is oil spillage. So Nigeria, just like I said earlier, Nigeria is rich in crude oil. And there are some multinational companies in Nigeria that come to the Niger Delta region to extract this crude oil. And after the extraction, this is what the community is left with. This process leads to soil degradation, underground water pollution, the fishes around these areas die, and the people there are left with nothing. They can't farm and all that. Another climate change action that also occurs in Nigeria is gas flaring. Nigeria economy is highly industrialized, and some companies, they're doing their industrial activities do flare gas. So sometimes you may come out in the morning and your face will be covered with black suits, and your cars too will be covered with black suits. So that's really bad and dangerous for our atmosphere. Another climate change action in Nigeria is also flooding. It occurs in most countries, and it also occurs in Nigeria as well. Sometimes after a heavy downpour in Nigeria, you will experience flooding because the drainage patterns are blocked by garbage, and instead of the water flowing freely, it's stagnant, and it increases water level, which leads to destruction of lands and properties. Another problem in Nigeria is also desertification. So in Nigeria, there is this group of cattle rearers, which we call the Fulani headsmen. So the Fulani headsmen rear their cattle from one place to another, and when their area is desertified, they move from the northern part of Nigeria to maybe the eastern part to seek for lush vegetables for their cattle, and this process leads to colonization and it leads to colonization. And each year in Nigeria, 1 kilometer of our land is lost to desertification. Now, back to indigenous people. Indigenous people in Nigeria has been existing for quite a very long time, and even perhaps before the commencement of civilization, but their voices are not really heard. They're not really put into consideration. Their voices are not really put into consideration. Because maybe we see them as lower people, but it would really be nice for them to step up, for them to come out from the dark, for them to see themselves as equal with others and contribute to the activities of the community. And it's also nice for them to document whatever knowledge they have about climate change, so that their knowledge won't be wasted. It can be passed to their children from one generation to another in a spoken form or in a written form. And also, knowledge about climate change should be put into curriculum activities, so that the knowledge about climate change could be laid from early stage. Now, our school are also doing something about climate change, like the Green Issues Project. The Green Issues Project is aimed at tackling environmental issues around our school. You can see the teacher is involved, the school is involved, the students are involved, and the slogan for this project is cut 1 tree today and plant 2 tomorrow. So this project discourages deforestation and encourages afforestation. And our school will also creating awareness, sensitizing people, enlightening people about the dangers of climate change. And our government are also in some step forward. Our government are also some step forward in combating climate change because there's a project called in the course of the eco-terrorism and eco-violence caused by the Fulani herdsmen, the government introduced a ranching system where the herdsmen can rear their cattle in peace without necessarily colonizing anyone's land. And the government too, there's a project called there's a project in which the government, the UNDP, in collaboration with Nigeria government, they put up a program that is aimed at mopping up the oil spillage in the Niger Delta community. And also there's a project called the Great Green Wall Project that is aimed at tackling all environmental issues in Nigeria. Now some people see climate change as a condition. Others see climate change as a natural phenomenon. But I see climate change as a global problem which needs a global solution. And the journey towards combating climate change is not a job for only the government, it's a job for also the citizens. It's not a job for someone, it's a job for everyone. And it's not a job for me, it's a job for you. So hashtag decarbonize, hashtag decolonize. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Hamid, I'm from Palestine, and I live in Ramallah, which is a major place in Palestine. As a habitant in Ramallah, we experience climate change through the increase in temperature, the increase in rainfall intensity, and the variation of rainfall patterns, which later results in floods. For example, in the early 2000s, the municipality of Ramallah designed a drainage system for a street with an outlet of 100 cubic meters. But in 2018, there was 10,000 cubic meters flowing through that outlet as a result of climate change and urbanization. Climate change is a new subject in Palestine, since we don't contribute to it, although we are affected by it. Also, this subject is secondary for the public because we are under occupation. So people worry more about surviving than climate change. So the public's concern is basically how to access water and provide energy and other basic needs. However, we have Environment Quality Authority and other NGOs that are considered about climate change. The Environment Quality Authority leads the research about climate change, in which they produced the first national communication report. This report identified the vulnerable sectors, which were 12 sectors, with water resources as the most vulnerable. It also suggested projects to increase the adaptation capacity. This authority also set policies to control water and energy consumption, and conducted several types of workshops to deal with climate change. They conducted workshops to raise awareness among the public, especially for students. However, the Israeli occupation has played a substantial role in decreasing the adaptation capacity, since it controls the borders and also provides legislations for such projects. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andre. I am from Peru. Peru is on the western side of South America. And Huánuco is one of the 24 regions of Peru. Located in the eastern central Peru, Huánuco has a variety of different climatic regions, extending from snowy mountains, mountain range, warm valleys, and 2 types of jungles. Loricocha, one of the highest provinces of Huánuco. It's Loricocha at 3,800 meters above sea level. Its average annual climate varies between 15.8 and 23.3 degrees. Here we find the Mount of Yurupaja of 6,634 meters above sea level, the second highest snow-covered mountain in Peru. The city of Huánuco is surrounded by mountains and located at 1,800 meters above sea level. Has an average temperature is 18.7 degrees, a mild climate. The city of Tingo Maria is located in the high forest at 647 meters above sea level with a tropical climate and average temperature of 24.4 degrees. It has rainforests and many mountains that have a great diversity of flora and fauna. The city of Puerto Inca is located in the lowland forest and 200 meters above sea level, and with a tropical climate and average temperature of 26.2 degrees, no mountains formed a vast fluid plain, great valleys, and great diversity of flora and fauna. Now, I will mention and briefly explain the problems that these provinces have. In Loricocha, we find the Nevado of the Yurupaja. The problem is that this snow-capped mountain is mainly because of global warming, and this generates a scarcity of water. Now the river, causing the people of the farming communities to migrate to the city. The main problem in the city of Huánuco is the contamination of the Guayar River due to disposal of sewage from the city without being treated, which comes into its waters. Now the river no longer shelters life, and its water isn't safe for human consumption. The problem in Tingo Maria is that people cut the trees and to make space for growing agricultural products and cattle raising. Then wash the fertile soil, and after some crops, the soil will be very poor. The problem in Puerto Inca is the indiscriminate logging. It is the second most affected province by forest depredation in order to grow oil palm, making global population vulnerable to the climate change. The solution concerning Loricocha is mitigating the emission of carbon dioxide, which is causing a faster temperature variation of glacier medium. We can take many actions to counter carbon dioxide emissions, like using vehicles that don't use fossil fuels or non-motorized vehicles. Another way would be reforestation, because trees would like a carbon dioxide treatment plant. This same suggestion came from the Aboriginal leader that we interviewed. He told us that the Aboriginal communities are doing reforestation in their lands. The Aboriginal leader told us that they feel the global warming because years before they could work the land in the afternoon. Nowadays, it's impossible, so they have to start working before dawn. The solution for Huánuco is to build a treatment plant for the wastewater before it flows into the river. The main solution concerning Tingo Maria is that the farmers should have education on productive, ecological, and economic zoning, so that they grow their products in proper lands. On the other side, the Aboriginal communities asked to stop the invasion of the forest lands made by the Andean communities. Concerning Puerto Inca, the solution will be forest protection, and for that, security checkpoints or roadblocks should be systematically implemented, as well as monitoring centers and stop corruption.